Hello, and welcome back, friends. Today I'm reacting to MandaloreGaming's review of Stasis. I know nothing about the game. The only thing I do know is that it's probably some kind of horror or horror related thing, because Mandalore just released it a couple of days ago, and he always does spooky horror games when Halloween is right around the corner. And the only thing other than that I know is that at least one person asked me to react to this and Stasis Bone Totem, which I'm assuming is a sequel or DLC or something. Anyway, it's a follow-up video that Mandalore did, and I'm just gonna go in. The art looks really nice, so I'm assuming it's like an isometric game. I don't know if it's action or adventure puzzle thing, but we don't have to guess because Mandalore will tell us everything that we need to know about Stasis. So let's dive right into the review. What the hell? Okay, that is a little loud.
Stasis is a sci-fi horror game that initially seems very open about what it is. It asks simple questions like, do you like Sanitarium? Do you like Alien? Do you like man-made horrors beyond comprehension? If so, you're probably going to enjoy this game. And I mean enjoy in the same way you might enjoy I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. There's a lot that's obviously vile and horrific and
it's one of those I'm gonna feel like shit, but I love every second of it games then, kinda like Spec Ops The Line. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is such an interesting fucking game. I wonder if Mandalore ever reviewed it. I kinda saw a very long time ago, I saw a let's play of it, and it's so interesting. I almost considered picking up the book it was based on, because holy shit, the concepts of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream are some of the most metal shit I have ever seen.
Stasis, but there's still a good amount buried in the details, including some huge reveals friends of mine have missed. It was made by a very small studio called The Brotherhood, and it's the kind of adventure game you could beat over a weekend. In line with that, the setup is extremely simple and effective. Well, they go for the kill right after the title screen. Our story takes place somewhere in the future, in orbit over Neptune. Right from the get-go, the alien influence is incredibly strong. The slow, creeping string music with elongated shots of space and this vessel. The ship is bathed in smoke and fog, which could be space debris or some kind of exhaust, but it's framed more like a winter storm. It could just be the ship is extremely high in the atmosphere, but it could also hint that things will take a turn for the surreal. For starters, this is not your ship. You've just been suddenly awoken from cryogenic stasis. And while you are confused and groggy, you don't have amnesia. You are John Marichek.
Subject Marichek, John J., died during the procedure.
And I won't be stopping to point out more of this. There are little nods to sci-fi horror here and there, but I don't want to let them get distracting.
That's cool. That's very that's a reference that's not very in your face. So I think references like that, especially when it's a passion project based on like media you really love, that's fucking cool. That's a cool little Easter egg.
To the Gate Corporation Stasis Plug Suit. Please hold still while your biometric scans are completed.
After a quick, medically induced power nap, you recall your last memory was traveling with your family. Your wife, Ellen, and daughter, Rebecca. Can we tone it down? After a long lullaby, John awakes and discovers that his family is also aboard the mysterious ship. They were intercepted en route to Titan Station, and for what purpose, he doesn't know. It's also unclear why or how he was awoken. Everything is caked in dust and other signs of wear. He finds clues to give possibilities, but nothing concrete.
Security lockdown? Must be why there's nobody here. Maybe they were evacuated.
Sure, maybe, but
So it's like a point-and-click adventure thing, right? Because I would assume there would be combat by now if it's going to be in the game.
just because there's no people doesn't mean there's no danger. So become John Stasis and find your family. Let's start with the graphics. For starters, this is a completely 2D game. everything from the environments to the character models. This is especially shocking on John himself. This man is a sprite, but his animations are frame-heavy, the lighting and the level affects him, and he's capable of dying in so many miserable ways. It has an autosave system, which is nice, but fortunately you can
This game, this is what I was about to fucking say, and this frame perfectly encapsulates it. This game looks honestly impressive, but at the same time looks very off. That explosion VFX is just like a YouTube green screen you can download right now. What the hell is that? And like the environments look really, really good, but the interaction with the main player character looked a little in some of those shots that Mandalore just shown. But still, like for an indie game, awesome art direction. Love to see some stylized things like that.
also save at any time, which is good because I wanted to try out the bad options for puzzles and was rarely left disappointed. Like turning on a super furnace that actually melts the skin off his bones. If the ways to go in the environment aren't enough, you can also stupidly use an item on yourself and get a full FMV of you dying with it. It's a grisly game, and I'm generally not squeamish around violence in these, but there is one section where you have to perform surgery on yourself, and failing it will make the torment machine rip your entire spine out. It's sort of like watching a tree stump being removed. I'll save that for the end for those who wish to partake in that.
Oh god damn, that bad? So like Dead Space, the needle in the eye thing. Mandalore has a whole fucking playlist of Dead Space reviews. I need to get in on that because I love Dead Space and I fucking hate EA for having the rights to Dead Space. What a piece of shit company. Fuck them. And yeah, there's a cool section in Dead Space where you need to put a needle right into the middle of your eye. And the character looks around panicked and you need to aim it, because if you aim it wrong, it will just scoop out his brain and kill him immediately. Man, when I was younger, that section always put the fear of God into me. God damn. This looked like more elaborate version of that, so I'm looking forward to the really fucked up animation at the end.
But don't let that distract you from how gorgeous and detailed this game is. And that could come across as weird seeing this industrial hellscape, but there was so much attention and care given to the environment. Each little piece of debris carefully placed where light falls in a room. And when you're in the point-and-click adventure rodeo, those tiny details matter a ton. If it weren't for the widescreen and if this was on a CR...
I'm gonna argue here that it doesn't matter what genre. The lighting and how level is set up matters. If you ever played any of the Valve games, Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, you know that Valve has a very, very, very simple fix to that. They just shine lights on the places that they want you to go. And it's such a great visual indicator that you just never feel confused about where the progress is. And I wish like more games took that shit seriously. Not showing you like an arrow pointing you where you need to go, but just nudging you through the environmental details like, yeah, lightning. So yeah, point and click games, sure, especially need that clarity because sometimes you need to be pixel hunting, and if you miss a thing, you are stuck until you find it, so that's bad. But even like super simple FPS games like Half-Life really, 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 really gain a lot by giving you like clear where you need to go indicators without throwing a fucking minimap at you or a waypoint that literally shows you, oh, you need to go here.
ERT, I would think it's straight out of the late 90s. And I say that very affectionately. I'm still having to hold back on what to show, but there's a good variety throughout the ship too. It's enormous, and you can see how areas were sectioned off for crew or for work or anything else. Though the layouts for some of these areas can feel bizarre at times. Rooms can seem far too large for what they should be or placed in a strange area, but it's not inconsistent in a bad way. Like starting off, you'll hear announcements from the ship's high-tech, I assume, computer, which does sound closer to human than some others you run into.
The tower. I am pressurizing the raw materials containment tank.
Very early on, you find a PDA from a worker who is also baffled. He was told it was the most advanced research ship in existence, but it's also over 50 years old. The ship is called the Groom Lake, which could be a reference to the salt flats near Area 51, or it could have been a subtle hiring beacon, to let self-admitted rapists know that they were eligible for the workforce. But anyways, it's an appealing-looking world in all its low-resolution glory. Plus, there are all the great interactable objects used for puzzles in progress. Hell, even the PDA text logs you find from other characters have all kinds of personal touches to them. It is close to being an outright home run, except for John. As impressive as he can be, there are plenty of times he could stick out for the environment like a sore thumb. He has
I literally said this before.
strange animations at points, but the one you'll see the most is the run. He moves like he's absolutely booking it, but not really moving that fast or far. You do get used to it, but it never stops being awkward.
You're doing very well, Reggie. You run really fast.
The animation can also be out of sync with the sound effects sometimes, which can make something like knocking on a door janky, but I notice this kind of thing more when the Forbidden Ones dragging him into the deep doesn't trigger properly. Still, going back to that run, it also has a heavy breathing sprint sound which cuts off on a dime.
What?
I appreciate them wanting that detail, but it detracts more than it adds.
Yeah, why would you even really want that in your game? That's a little bit strange.
It's not hugely distracting, but when it's quiet, you do get the occasional It's still a fairly minor point in the grand scheme. I probably shouldn't say minor aboard the Groom Lake, but hey, the rest of the soundscape is very interesting. I would not have guessed that would be here. Most of the soundtrack is quietly building tension, sneaking in and out and sometimes blending with the in-game ambience. Though it sometimes rises up into the foreground with somber pianos and long, drawn-out strings, there are some beautiful tracks paired with some disgusting visuals.
Oh, that's some good
What's going
music.
on here?
Heard things, but I don't know any specifics. You have to believe me.
Most of those kinds of tracks were done by Mark Morgan, who composed the original Fallout games and Planescape Torment.
Oh my god, that's quite a fucking OST resume. Holy shit, I love Fallout 1 and 2's OSTs. They are so goddamn atmospheric.
That alone is a good pick for the tone. However, other composers like Daniel Sadovsky also contributed, so you'll sometimes get more action-y music in key moments. There are also the club bangers, and I'm not sure who's behind those. The music does bring some...
That's cool. That's really cool. When I'm assuming he's under the nightclub thing, and it's all muted. That's such a cool touch.
comfort in the sewer of these trying times. The diegetic club stuff is all good, but at its worst, the soundtrack can feel inconsistent and clash at points. It also doesn't help that the action music can be way louder in the mix. Audio mixing in general is something that Stasis struggles with, but sometimes this adds on to it. Sound volume can range all over, there can be loud peaks and crackles, but most of the effects they've created or are using are very good. So when they're trying to make something sound surreal, it is crunchy, but also incredibly bizarre and effective. For a little comparison, here's a vending machine in the Callisto Protocol. When they break, they slow down or get staticky. Here's a broken vending machine in Stasis.
Damn.
If I heard that at night, I'd get a gun to shoot myself.
Something's moving in there.
You never know when it'll ambush you.
My dear little girl, you don't know how happy we are to have you
That's quite an impressive soundscape for a horror game, I gotta say. That sounds, man, like in the moment playing it, I can imagine my reaction to that would be like just straight up not feeling comfortable, which is, you know, a desired feeling when playing a horror game. You obviously don't play goddamn horror games to feel comfortable in your, you know, sit behind the controller. It's always supposed to be a little bit on edge, or when actually like a monster comes out or something, the desired emotion is fear or panic. And that sounds like some great fucking build up to scare me later, and I'm all about this.
Still, most of your time playing is atmospheric and quiet. It helps to build up and accent those other moments. Most of your time is spent quietly reading and figuring out how to progress. Only treasures can be in that doorway. The sounds are a mix of great and terrible, and the biggest gap between them is in the voice acting. The mixing issue is straight up detrimental here. The voice cast is also tiny, and John's is exceptionally good. There are some horrific scenes that are brought up by how intensely he reacts to them. The issue is, he's running laps around the other cast.
Who are you?
My name is Taya Hensley. I'm a botanist in hydroponics. I know you have questions, but right now, you need to get to the tram. Are they all so bloodied up, like the guy under the floor?
You could say that. I'm not sure how many people I'm looking at, but it's like something from a eugenics war painting.
Try to push through, John.
There are some moments where the others do a good job. I don't know if they were being directed in those or what the deal was. Even with that, a lot of the technical shortcomings are still there. But the issue is that the delivery on some of these can be so bad that it can completely undercut the game.
How many of your cockroaches do I have to kill, is it?
Milan, let's talk about this.
What the fuck was that delivery?
This was the last straw. I'm coming for you next. And as for your little head.
Warning. Brakes disabled.
It's to a point where the conversations feel like they're in a completely different world than what you're reading. The atmosphere is outstanding enough that I could still get into it, but when those moments came, they would rip me right back out. It's also possible that Rebecca is some kind of text-to-speech.
But Dad, Sandy said that if you have bad dreams and you can't wake up that, you'll be stuck in them forever.
This was long before the AI voice craze and just seems like text-to-speech, so don't get the pitchforks. There's more to talk about when it comes to the dialogue, but we should move on to the gameplay for now. This is an isometric adventure game, which means there are going to be puzzles, which means there could be a Veil of Madness. For those of you unfamiliar with some of my other videos, I've played a good amount of adventure games. I've showcased some that range from playable bowling alley strike screen to a psychosis test. There are some great adventure games where the puzzles are almost entirely reasonable, but even the best usually have some small bits of moon logic. You could say something is convoluted for a situation and you'd be right, but we're now entering the adventure game scale, which is extremely arbitrary. Walkthroughs are always available, but you have to take everything I say here with a big chunk of salt. So, with that out of the way, on the scale, I think...
Ooh, what is this game? This looks very, very interesting. I'm assuming he's shown Ring, which, don't worry, I will come back to. Obviously, Limbo of the Lost and that goddamn Mystery of the Druids. Mystery of the Druids is such a generic name that I keep forgetting it. Like, honestly.
I say here with a big chunk of salt.
And yeah, and that was also Blade Runner adventure game. I haven't seen that one, but Mandalore already spoke about it in when comparing it to Mystery of the Druids, so I kinda recognize that. But this, I have no idea what this is.
So, with that out of the way, on the scale, I think Stasis is decent. You can't accidentally soft lock yourself out, items or clues you need are only a few screens away at most, and they're usually right by. It lacks most of what can make the genre unbearable, but there are still some bits. You have a Star Trek-like quantum storage device. All kinds of items are broken down for you to use and combine, but you'll rarely have many at a time. You're not drowning in items, so can brute force some moon logic, but the main issue is pixel hunting. There's not a ton of it, and it mostly seems unintentional. For example, nearly every PDA or computer has a little glint on it, and some items do too. Even without that, it's sometimes obvious what you're supposed to pick up, and if not, you could sometimes read about it. The issue is the world is so detailed that even if something makes logical sense, you might not be looking there. You'll pass all kinds of containers and boxes and shelves that you do nothing with. Sometimes they're obvious clues, and sometimes they're indistinguishable from background objects. Like the locker here is placed between two PDAs, so that might guide you towards it, but maybe not. The most egregious pixel hunt in the game is this one room filled with blood that you're supposed to get blood from, but only from this magical little corner. Again, there's a PDA to try and guide you towards it, but if you didn't move your mouse all the way over there, then you would never know. You can see they're trying to keep the realism and still guide you without the items you need being glowing and obvious, but it still means there will be times where you have to hunt around. Unlike some other games, it doesn't feel like Stasis is trying to do this, but the scales were tipped too far towards realism over convenience. And I say realism for item placement because that chunky blood I found I then had to mash up with a pistol. This is the kind of moon logic to expect sometimes, which isn't insane. They're more puzzles that make sense but make you annoyed by it. Down in the morgue, you want it unfrozen, so you need to find a way to prop the furnace door open. You have a drill and other items by now, but those won't do the trick. Instead, you need to go to a nearby toilet and fish a dirty rag out of it to stuff that into the hinge. That does make sense, but I'm still pissed off. Welcome to adventure games. There's also a valve you need to turn 3 times, with the hint being use all of your might, which I did do, but I could smell how people would get stuck on this. I also think it's the only thing you have to keep clicking on. The big complicated write this down puzzle isn't too tough, and there are clues all over the place. And there were plenty of puzzles that were satisfying to figure out. Again, my brain is melted for measuring these things. The setting may be...
So, yeah, sounds like it's bearable. Like, yeah, this ain't Mystery of the Druids level, but...
cruel, but I don't think the gameplay is trying to be. On the horror side of things, I do love most of it. It did feel like a sci-fi horror greatest hits compilation at first. You know, I sure hope hydroponics won't be too messed up, but the more it went on, the more fascinating it became. The perspective and resolution also works well for it. Sometimes you're only getting shrouded glimpses of things. Things you may have read up on and may know about in terrifying detail at that point. Nothing ever jumps out at the screen, but the scares in that spirit do feel earned with the build-up. The most horrifying aspects in the game are passages you read, or you seeing what's in a new room. It shows a lot of appalling concepts that are meant to stick with you. It does excel at that, until some people start talking. It does go on sale fairly often. It's currently a little over $1 on GOG for their autumn sale. It bases for around $10 there and on Steam, which is still worth it. But I do want to dig down more into the story, so if you don't want spoilers, go to here.
Nah, I'm good. I'm not really big on point-and-click adventure games, so yeah. I think I'm gonna let Mandalore just spoil anything he wants.
Are you fucking kidding me?
From the beginning, it was clear this was no mix-up. John and his family's pods were shanghaied by the Kane Corporation, which in-game is somehow an even more evil Amazon. They're the most powerful company and possibly most powerful entity back on Earth. The Groom Lake has nabbed all kinds of people in stasis, which they refer to as products. When John goes to medical to fix himself up from nap time, the computer's already set to harvesting skin, organs, and other fun bits. So at first, it seems like legal organ harvesting. Except the logs from many staff weren't fully aware of what was happening. The staff thought that products were criminals, drifters, and other undesirables. If they woke up confused or screaming, adamant about who they were, that's either them lying to try and get out, or stasis just causes confusion. Keep in mind, this world has an assisted suicide lottery. Stasis rarely says the problems of the setting directly.
Okay.
But it does give bits like this to clue you into how dire things are. That is smart writing, but it does get undercut sometimes by taking things too far. Like having Kane Corp budget cut out the fire axes. And Anus Inspection Day.
You stay clean of parasites at all times. Mandatory rectal exams are to be enforced.
They do drop this kind of thing early on. It feels like a Fallout bit that's not landing. Having the highly volatile methane tanks directly beneath the crew quarters, that's better. One nurse did try to get off the product line when they cracked open a child's pod. What's interesting is she doesn't quit, she just wants to transfer to hydroponics. The pay isn't as good, but at least I'll be able to sleep at night. So that would make her feel absolved until, hydroponics uses products too. It had to keep being in her face to care, otherwise she just doesn't want to think about it. I mean, calling them products alone is a nice little way of dehumanizing them. When John links up with the botanist Taya, she reveals that she's just trying to escape the ship. And she's been at it for a long while. The situation was falling apart over a period of months, and since the final night where the ship was remotely functional, it's been 3. Even Taya isn't fully sure what happened. Well, one of the experiments Kane was working on was mass human cloning. Using lots of product samples for research, they were hoping they could mass produce a standardized organ. Giant vats of hearts and lungs for hospitals, and not the giant vats of half-formed screaming monstrosities, where some shake uncontrollably, scream day and night, and have been rotting and devouring each other for the first financial quarter of the year. It's still looking kind of bullish to me. Some of the organs they were trying to grow were forming incorrectly, like a mass becoming a tail that would aimlessly swim around the vat all day, which they named Samantha.
Damn, that's some cool-ass concepts this game is introducing, though.
Why it became this fucked up is from a combination of reasons. Another department wanted the organs from it, so demanded it got started now, and many planned safety features weren't put in yet. The samples the other department, Project Seed, provided were also all kinds of screwed up, so different vat samples were creating different kaleidoscopes of the human form. And then you have the poor age and maintenance of the Groom Lake. Some of the vats and machinery have mold growing on them. By the time the game starts, it's gotten so bad that it's what the ship computer and your own suit were warning you about. The air is spicy and full of spores. So the result was producing rotten beings of pure suffering on an industrial scale. John electrifying one of their tanks is a mercy. So maybe some cloned monsters escaped and killed the crew, right? Well, some did. There were reports of killings and maimings even before the Groom Lake fell apart, along with the fact the mold may have made it into the food supply or corporate was lacing it with something. That fungus may have traces of intelligence as well. Maybe the Area 51 connection is alive and well and the many have come to party. The issue is the party that was at the club makes things more confusing. There are piles of bodies that have been completely skinned, but it's slowly revealed that what John is seeing isn't completely foreign to him. There's a lot of mention of something called the eugenics war that happened back on Earth. What little details you get involve horrifying monsters and remote viewers being used in battles. The result was so horrifying that genetic research back on Earth has virtually stopped. It's highly regulated to stop this from happening again. The Groom Lake wasn't just working on a single project. It's a collection of illegal research, being done on a deep space ship where no one will ever find it. You come across a horribly bloated giant...
Fucking classic.
An insect queen, who is being milked for royal jelly, but her offspring are really fucking dangerous, and they're thriving in the fungus-infested hydroponics. As for Project Seed, staff could actually volunteer for that, as long as they had been pregnant. I'm sure only good will come from this. It turns out that Seed was the killing blow. It was supposedly a super soldier project, until a good amount of them escaped and began to murder the crew. It turns out everyone on the ship, staff and products, have a personal data tag, or a PDT. It tracks everyone, and it's how Taya is tracking John. She can't scan out his family, which doesn't mean they're dead, only that their devices haven't been activated. She can scan for DNA signatures though, so if he can find a scanner, he can send her his information, and she can find his daughter. And then his wife, which would make things easy. The Project Seed hybrid race has also learned about PDTs. By that I mean, they figured out something about human skin let them pass through doors. So they've been skinning and wearing people they come across like some kind of prehistoric tribe. So the surviving crew targeted defenses against PDT users and surgically were removing their own. John has to undergo this in a much more duct tape way.
Rebecca, run.
Where the hybrids are born is as nightmarish as it sounds. To the point where I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show it, which might be for the best.
Oh
the
my
contracted
god.
staff or acquired products are used up to create the hybrid line. The hybrids are created by a Dr. Milan, and they're not an original concept. A version like them was created in the eugenics war, and Milan is a mad scientist who doesn't care about super soldiers, he just wants to make a human successor. Which is written down more eloquently, but he sounds like a cartoon.
By whose standards do you call me a monster? The morals of men don't apply to gods!
A little bit of that cartooniness had to slip in there at some point. You need to be like a real fucking heavyweight of a writer to, or have a really good team, to not make the mistake of slipping some cartoony villainousness into your story. Like, it's really hard. I don't blame anyone for having, you know, a little bit of that. BioShock has a little bit of that, even when it's such a great fucking story. Fallouts have a little bit of that, even they are really great stories. Mass Effect runs into the same problem, like, and yet the list just goes on and on and on. You eventually run into this problem, like I said, unless you are like God amongst men when it comes to writing. I really don't blame the team behind this game.
There's been extensive hybrid research, seeing which ones should live on or mate or just be destroyed. Many you come across are also withering away or passive. They were also being tortured, and you come across a mass grave of hybrids and humans who were all gassed. They were animalistic monsters,
Holy
but also suffering. They didn't learn much beyond violence and that Milan is their god. The fungus is not alien life. It first showed up after a bunch of corpse overflow from the hybrids. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, so there's two things I find striking about all of this. While the hybrids were the killing blow, this was a compounding lasagna of terror. The subject matter is amped up, but if you've ever worked a corporate job, you've seen shit like this all the time. Projects being rushed, not enough resources given to maintenance until something bad happens, unqualified people in positions due to nepotism or other office politics bullshit. The company is evil story is not new and will be around long after I'm gone.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The issue is, many can be written cartoonishly evil, to the point where I doubt the writer has ever worked an actual 9 to 5. The issues at its core of how things went wrong on the Groom Lake are so mundane, but so familiar. Sure, it has a mad scientist element with Milan, but he had no oversight. And he too ignored other departments to focus on his own pet project. Sure, Kane Corp is an evil sci-fi company, but you see the exact laziness, greed, and cut corners that led to the outbreak. The disaster happening isn't even the heart of the horror. The most vile, horrible things you see in the game were planned that way. Milan has been having his fun with what's left.
That's some good ass writing.
But the disaster has actually stopped the Nightmare assembly line. The worst atrocities were designed, and it couldn't have been done without a lot of apathy from those working there. It still keeps going because the process was working. Kane's research was wiping out cancer and other disorders. The Queen's jelly was developing into being able to instantly heal wounds. They could also use it as an organic construction adhesive because they found new uses for research items all the time. This little hellhole has many benefits to the world, but those who argue in favor of it probably don't want to volunteer for experimentation.
How can we allow this?
This is the purpose of the Groom Lake. It's not on Earth. People can't see it, so they don't care.
That's so real. That's so fucking real. God damn.
What if they knew?
So what?
There are lots of well-written logs from staff members coming.
I mean, yeah, by now we know about horrific shit in real world that happened. Like the FBI keeps dropping new lore about the crimes they did in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Soon they will drop what fucked up things they did in the 2000s, and nobody will care. Because it happened like 20, 30 years ago, man. There's no way they are doing this to us right now. Surely. My government? Experimenting? On me? You think I wouldn't notice? Why does the water taste so funny?
Coming to terms with their life and what happened. They're not all winners, but there are some excellent ones. The modern world has all kinds of aspects like lithium mining that people don't want to think about.
That's... Oh shit, I didn't even think about that one. Oh man, like everything... Not only lithium mining, but holy shit, like some of the product you consume in your daily life comes from such horrific fucking conditions and undergoes such disgusting processes. It's actually unreal, but it's happening, you know, in South America. It's happening in Africa. It's happening far away from me, so I don't care. You know, that's that type of situation, basically.
This is an amped up space haunted house with interesting science concepts, but it gives you a lot to chew on with its repugnant conclusions. which makes the terrible dialogue moments so much worse. There's a part where John needs to burn down hydroponics and a woman has been fused into it through the fungus. She's been watching her child slowly decompose in front of her. Harrowing stuff here.
I need you to crack this flare. The oxygen will ignite. Then you will die.
And seconds later...
What did you do?
I cleared the vines.
With a flamethrower?
Something like that.
Oh my god, that's some heavy tonal dissonance. What the fuck?
He's not a quippy action hero either, he's terrified for most of the game. And Milan goes in on the family too. But anyhow, John is losing his mind while his suit tells him how bad things are getting. It can be such a clever game, like giving you a pistol to make you worried about combat that never comes. The reveal that the Groom Lake was originally a mining ship called the Tower, explaining its vast empty spaces. Kane Corp is ahead of the game because they found a eugenics war vault in Camp 571 in Japan. Okay, that one's kind of ham-fisted. But you know what? Even with how disjointed this game can be, I realized this is the Callisto Protocol if it was about something. Except it was made for less than 1% of the budget. And many years earlier. Look, there's even a two-headed man. John burning down hydroponics does cripple the ship, and things get insanely dark from here. Milan takes revenge on John's daughter.
I'm going to get him very faulty.
Rebecca, no! Rebecca, run!
The child is completely obliterated, which is taboo in most games. Or at least it used to be.
Baldur's Gate is a very progressive game for allowing you to eat children.
But here's where things take a turn. He has Rebecca's blood so Taya can find Ellen. Taya does find her pod but gets captured by Milan, so John Stasis goes to confront him. To cut the confrontation short, he does defeat Milan but injures himself in the process, and Taya is revealed to be a traitor. Kind of. She also wanted to find Ellen because Ellen has the right genetic makeup to be a living USB. She could only find John and woke him to get to Ellen. Taya has stored the Groom Lake research into her bone marrow. She too also wants revenge on Kane Corp for killing her husband, and she can also get rich off of it. Or something. You pull your ripped out PDT out of your quantum storage device and the turrets turn her into cheese. The escape ship only has room for one pod, and this is where people get thrown off.
Destination changed.
I love you, Ellen.
He sends her off to escape alone.
Okay, a little weird.
Oh Christ, he didn't notice she was dead? Well, really listen to how he delivers that.
I love you, Ellen.
Some players still think he just didn't notice. If you were reading carefully, you learned her fate, and it only came with a small audio sting. All game you were bombarded with names, but did you remember your wife's in the hybrid birthing room?
Subject host Ellen Maracek, space tourist. Want to watch Kenning extraordinary fast and dangerous, appears to prefer isolation, as attempted pairings results in fatalities. Takes an alpha role, easily dominates the other Novi, a definite candidate for Lana's mate.
Fucking hell. How she died exactly
Damn.
is ambiguous, but there is a scene that calls back to the beginning that could give a good hint. Beyond that, John is losing his mind, like, that little girl looks nothing like Rebecca. There's a lot of psychological ambiguity I don't want to get into, but I just know his family's dead. And he does too. Maybe his memory of Rebecca is implanted and that's why she has a robot voice. No, that's coping. Stasis is a brutal, dark game, and it got a sequel. And I'm of course talking about the free sequel, Kane. People say to try this to see if you like Stasis, and they're wrong. It stars a pregnant woman named Hadley, but there is no hope here. Besides the art shift, when they were going to sacrifice her fetus to whatever the fuck this thing is, I was compelled, professionally of course, to see what would happen if she didn't escape. It just fades to red. It has a large hub area, moon logic puzzles, but as someone who nearly loved Stasis, the dialogue. Holy shit.
Head towards the screaming. Clever, Hadley.
You're scared.
Heck yeah, I'm scared.
I can't believe what I'm seeing on the fucking screen. Like, look at... May I direct your attention to the upper left corner of the screen, right? You see this, and then you hear, heck yes, I'm scared. Like, what the fuck? At that point, remove all voice acting from your game and just have a text and do basically Animal Crossing where they say, brr, 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 you know, or something like that.
Holy Toledo.
Are you fucking...
No, why would you do this? Don't say it. Please don't, my heart can't take it. No, I despise Kane. I hate it, and I don't want to look at it anymore. If you want to try it, it is free, but it is not like the first game. I was so close to loving Stasis. Every cell in my body is screaming that this should be a favorite of mine, and it still feels like that. But there's still too much frustration in some puzzles, the jank in general. And while it's not Kane, some of the dialogue scenes just absolutely torpedo the atmosphere. It's hard to convey the shifts through a video like this, but they're breakneck. Now beyond Kane, they did do a proper full-blown sequel, where you investigate a lost deep-sea oil rig. This game is next.
Nice. Okay,
do
now...
I ever go back to play some of the...
Now I really need to watch his Bone Totem review, because I'm curious if it's better or worse.
Stranger games. I generally do if they were very fun, or if there were strange things that I might have missed in them. I do need to go back at some point, but I've heard there's a part in Mystery of the Druids where you can be arrested by the cops by trying to go back to France, and I might need to see that with my own eyes. What drove me to see Legion to its end? Childhood-fueled spite. Will there be a video on the current Warhammer 3 situation? For those who don't understand, it's still a very buggy mess, and they just released a horribly overpriced DLC. I'm still not a fan of the campaign art shift, and the core is still so buggy, I just haven't played as much as I did Warhammer 2. The other Total War guys are digging into them pretty appropriately. I try to make videos to last, and I don't know what I could add. It would mainly be showing how broken things still are to a larger outside audience.
That's another thing. I saw Total War Warhammer 2 review, I think. 2? It's one of the most popular videos of Mandalore channels. I need to check that out too. See what's all that about.
But I'll think about it. Do I enjoy playing or DMing more? Definitely playing, but one-shots are fun. Will there be another mod video? I am hoping for one by the end of the year. I've wanted to do for ages now. I had to space it out.
Oh yeah, the very horrible scene. Let's see it. That's it. It kinda looks like a... it kinda fucking looks like a Mortal Kombat fatality. I don't know if Mandalore did some color correction or something, because I know... Like, people get legit demonetized for showing Mortal Kombat fatalities. I know it happened to Maximilian Dude, who does a lot of fighting games. He started using characters with green blood just so he could fucking bypass the stupid ass YouTube algorithm that completely demonetizes your video for showing a little bit of red. Like, they don't care. They are breaking necks, they are unscrewing heads, they are dropping people into fucking galaxies that in matter of nanoseconds atomize you. They care that the blood is red. How fucking stupid is this shit platform? Fuck you, YouTube. Oh my god. Too bad they will never be a real competitor to YouTube. Like, when it comes to videos, because obviously streaming, you have Twitch. Twitch is not that great either, so... Corporations, am I right? So yeah, I wonder if he color corrected this. But yeah, honestly... Looks kinda fucking brutal. Arso sounds really bad. Okay, and that's everything. Cool weird-ass game with... Like, the story and the concepts are really strong. It's a cool, like, amalgamation of, yeah, I have no mouth and I must scream, with all of the body horror, horrible experimentation shit, corporate greed, you know, of Alien variety, and like other ideas and aesthetics from other horror things and IPs that accumulates in this very original, because I don't want to say it's, oh, they just, you know, spliced together some concepts. No, they did. Obviously the inspiration is there, but the final product is very, very unique and original, and sounds like a very great fucking story for a game. I don't like point and click adventure game things, so I probably wouldn't be that into it, sadly. But yeah, the more stories like this in gaming, the better for us as gamers, you know, because it reeks of that originality. And sure, there are shortcomings, but I love when indie developers like actually pull out their fucking A game and show you that, yeah, there are cool original stories if you look past all of the really mainstream shit that's not that original or great, you know. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope your day goes better than John Stasis's and his family. And I will see you guys in the next one, which probably will be Bone Totem, or maybe Finally Ring, or maybe some Brookie video, who knows, I'm not even sure, so I shouldn't be saying any of this, but something along those lines probably. Anyway, see ya in the next one.